Welcome back to the third part on animating the wall to open up. Now, one thing I want to mention is this is going to be a little bit more tedious, I guess you would say. I'm actually going to delete that cube because I will not need it anymore. And the other thing I need to do is come in here and select all of these. I'm going to remove the rigid body from these. So it's just going to be a mesh collider attached to these essentially. And I'm going to name these four wall opening. There we go. And the reason why, because these are going to be the only four that actually animate. The rest of this is just going to be, it's basically just going to be like whatever. But let me go in here real quick. I'm going to get rid of my rigid body because I no longer need it. Because of that, I don't need the for loops, and I don't need to see if the animation is null. I'm actually going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to remove the for loop out of this. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this. There we go. I'm going to let that compile real quick. Now, there we go. And so this is going to be called wall opening 1. We'll just do it through here because this will be a lot easier. 2, 3, and 4. There we go. So I'm actually going to go into my animation window, and I'm selecting the parent of all these. And because I'm selecting the parent of all these, what this will allow me to do is whenever I create an idle state, is what will end up happening essentially is I can go here to add property, and I can just add the transform components right here. The other option I have, or I'm just going to do it this way. Go ahead and add the position. Add property, add the position, add property, add the position, add property, and position. There we go. I don't need these over here. Those can go away. Hold down Control C, and then I'm going to create a new clip, and this is going to be called wall opening. There we go. I'm going to save it. So essentially is what's going to happen here is we're going to actually create a new state. I'm going to move this out of the way, just make sure your time slider is set to 1 second. But I'm actually going to select these four. I'm going to move these down just a little bit. I'm going to select, oops, wrong ones. And select these two and move these down just a little bit. And so after that, I'm going to select these right here, Control C, create new clip. It's going to be called wall opening 2. Control V, back to 1 second, record. And then we're going to select all four of them again. These will come down here. We'll select these. These will come down here. Stop the record. Select these four, Control C. And this will be wall opening 3. Save. Control V. Select the 1 second. Hit record. And finally, these guys go down below the floor. And these guys go below the floor. There we go. So now all three of them are now set in the animation. And so we can come in here into the animator. And you click on wall complete. So this is going to be idle state. Right here. And instead of doing a bool, we're actually going to do an int. So it's going to be called wall open. And we're going to make transition, make transition, make transition. We're going to select this one. It will not have exit time. This one will have exit time. So we need to make sure that we do this. We're going to do the same thing here. Okie dokie. Equals 3. So wall open will equal 3. Oops, wrong one. It's going to start here. This one will equal 1. And then this one will equal 2. So the idle state is going to start off where wall open equals 0. And once it equals 1, it's going to go into the wall opening state. Once it equals 2, it will come into the wall opening 2 state. And once it equals 3, it'll come into the wall opening 3 state. So all that looks good. Is what we're going to do is we're going to come in here now, and instead of set bool, we're actually going to say set integer, and we need to make sure that this is typed the same way. So we're going to say wall open. We're going to say 1. Now, the only difference is, trying to think how to explain this. Let me think on how to explain this. I'm trying to think on how I want to explain this, but it's kind of weird. So, the first thing is that if int check is set to 3, this will never trigger. So, you're going to need to come up here. And we're actually going to need to put this here. Let's see. We're going to type in trigger check. There we go. So now, how many ever trigger checks we have, it will start playing this animation for us. The next thing we need to do is we actually need to come up here to cube destroy object. We're going to change this to a 3 because that's what we need. And we also need to put in the, oh wait, I need to get rid of the RB game break, or the RB break, I mean. There we go. One thing I want to state here real quick, if you have two different things, and let's say you want your wall open to play second, the way you would do that is you would create a trigger check right here, and if it equals this, then you start doing this. So basically, if it equals 1, then this would say, this would be something like trigger check -2, and that's how you do that. And so basically, did I do that right? I think I did. Okay, so no, you wouldn't add the parentheses, you just say trigger check -2. But basically is what's going to happen, because int check 1 up here equals 2, then once it comes down here and says, oh okay, this equals 2 as well, it's going to say that this is going to be 2, but it's going to -2, so it's going to be back at 0. And so that's the way you would do it if you had like multiple objects. So like you had part 1 and a part 2. Part 2 is when you'd want this wall to open. I, however, do not. So I'm actually just going to delete that line of code because we don't really need it. And that's what I need to do. Come on. Compile already. Alright, so is what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on this game object, Control D, Control D. There we go. So now I have 3 game objects that I can easily access. Move this back up here. This will be here. This can go away. And drag this up here. There we go. So I'm actually going to try and have the Scraps player look at this. And this way you can see that the wall state is actually changing. So let me look over here. There we go. And so I actually want to, let me go ahead and do this real quick. So we're going to click on this one. I'm going to move this over here. Okay, I forgot something. What did I forget? Go figure. Alright. I'm like really good at that. I'm like super good. I should be a superhero because I'm so good at that. What's your superhero power, Jimmy? Oh, I forgot to add in certain objects inside the inspector. Okay, so this is actually looping. To fix that, let's go back into the animation window. This is something I should have stated, and I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. Okay, so let's go ahead and create wall open idle. Control C. Then we're going to go to opening 2. Control C. Idle 2. Control V. Whoops. We're going to go into wall open 3. Control C. And create new clip. Wall open idle 3. Control V. There we go. Let me go into the open idle real quick and make sure this is that I set it on. I did. Okay, awesome. Okay, so basically I didn't create any idle states. That's my bad. So this is actually going to come up here. This will be here, and this will be here. It's going to look a little wanky, but you know what? It's whatever. Go ahead and minimize or maximize this so that way you can see it. Actually, I need to select these 3 and move them down right here. So what's going to happen, this is going to transition to here. There we go. So this is going to transition over to here. This will have exit time. This will not have exit time. That will be a state of 2. This will have an exit time. This will not have an exit time. And that will be a state of 3. And then this right here will not have exit time, which this will be a state of 1. Okay, there we go. So now we got our 3 game objects. You're going to be able to see this take place. So I'm going to click on this game object, drag it over here, it opens up. I'm going to click on this one, drag it over here, opens up a little bit more. I'll click on this one, drag it over here, and it opens up the rest of the way. Of course, I forgot to add the wall open idle state 3, but you get the idea. So that's how you would animate it. You could create another crumbling effect with the animation, but then you have to animate each one of the cube pieces that you want to animate. But there are other ways you can do it. So I'm going to actually end the tutorial series for setting triggers like that. The next one I'm going to get into is how to create a particle effect, basically using electricity to show the player what is being activated and where hazard areas are, similar to what you see in my toy box level. So I hope to see you all there.